everyone, and welcome to another episode of All My Best Friends Are Digital, a podcast about video games and the stories they tell. I am one of your hosts, Caitlin Bailey, and with me I have my co-host, Mark Bigney. Mark, how's it going?
I am powering through my dispatch withdrawal.
Yes, it is a great challenge for me as well. I am excitedly awaiting Wednesday so I can play some more.
Those of you that are subscribed to us on Patreon, thank you very much for your support. You can also get our bonus episodes about Dispatch, where we are thrilling to the latest HR violations in the game on our Patreon page. And I've been having a great time having those discussions, and I hope that listeners are able to join along whenever or if they happen to play Dispatch.
Yeah. All right. So today, as always, we're going to start with what we are currently playing. Then we're going to talk about the retro game Vandal Hearts on PlayStation. Following that, we'll be talking about our feature game, Keeper by Double Fine. And then finally, we're going to do some shameless hyping of upcoming titles in our Shout segment. So Mark, why don't you let me know what you've been playing lately?
I have returned to Virtua Fighter 5. Here's why. So, it is accumulating new subtitles. There was Virtua Fighter 5. They gave another subtitle for the console edition. And then the latest revision, which gave it rollback netcode and the whole stuff for modern contemporary online play. It is now Virtua Fighter 5 R.E.V.O, which is an acronym. I have looked. I cannot find a definitive answer about what R.E.V.O stands for. I guess it's just R.E.V.O.
Okay.
Fine. Okay. And then I saw, without much fanfare in my Steam library page, that there was a new DLC called World Stage. And I'm like, okay, what is this DLC? Because one of the things that R.E.V.O has done to Virtua Fighter 5 is it's brought it up to contemporary fighting game standards in a number of ways, which is to say, how can we squeeze more money out of an unsuspecting public? Now, it's not as bad as Street Fighter or Strive yet. I say yet. Who knows what Virtua Fighter 6 is going to look like.
Okay.
So far, they do give you a full roster. There's only one DLC character for Virtua Fighter 5 now, but they are going to churn out the costumes and make you pay for all those things, right? That's how you're going to make the money. And I'm on record before as saying that if you want to charge through the nose for cosmetics, and if you're going to use that to fund game development that I get to profit from, then I think that that's a trade worth having. And frankly, I'm not really into Virtua Fighter to dress up my characters like they're ridiculous rejects from some sort of tchotchke store.
Yeah.
That went through and hot glued a whole bunch of random objects to their body. But whatever. So, one of the things that Virtua Fighter 5 suffered from in comparison to earlier Virtua Fighters, especially the two versions of 4, was that the single-player content was comparatively parsimonious. There was an arcade ladder, sure, but in Virtua Fighter 4, there was this really, really aggressive single-player mode where there were tons and tons of different AI fighters you could play against, and different arcades you could go to, and events you could participate in. And what was really striking was that in, especially Virtua Fighter 4 Evolution, some of those AI fighters you learned to remember, and you learned their playstyles, and you learned what combos they tended to lean into, and some of them were delightfully difficult. Some of them would adapt to you, like on the first match they would fall for your standard group of tricks, but the second time you fought them in a different event entirely, they seemed to remember and adapt. It was wild. It was really, really well done. And it was just quality single-player fighting game content, because you can make good computer-controlled fighting game opponents. You just have to put in the effort. And it is so easy to make lazy single-player content in a fighting game. And so it's very gratifying on those rare occasions where they put in the effort. And World Stage for Virtua Fighter 5 R.E.V.O brings in a comparable single-player mode into Virtua Fighter 5. Reminiscent of the ones in Virtua Fighter 4. So I was thrilled to discover this, and I was also thrilled to discover that this was a free upgrade if you already had the game. So sure, I bought the game for $20 when it first came out, and now there's this massive infusion of new content for free. I'm all about that life. And so I jumped right in, and I immediately played like for a few hours straight, just plowing through the lower level. I'm not at the point yet where I've encountered some of the higher level AI opponents, so I can't really comment. I'm still at the stage where I'm able to easily beat whoever I'm fighting, and this is not because I'm exceptional at Virtua Fighter 5, let me assure you. At my best, I was barely competent, and I was at my best 20 years ago or
Yeah.
more. So I assure you, the weak sauce that I'm bringing with my Lion Rafale is not what is accounting for my success rate so far. It's because there's this huge universe of AI opponents, and I've only just started to dip my toe in. So I'm not in a position to comment about how robust it gets, whether it gets to the same level of quality that they had in Virtua Fighter 4, but that's the mode that they're getting into. They did give me also a couple free costumes, so yeah, I guess that's an indication that they're not going full mercenary all the time. So I'm going to give them credit for that. Part of my problems with Virtua Fighter 5 as compared to Virtua Fighter 4 is I don't really... I approach fighting games through the characters. I love the roster of characters, and I really want to find a main character to be like, that's my main, that's the person I'm playing as.
Yeah.
And if there's a serious problem with their gameplay, their visual representation, or their character representation, any one of those three, it can be a little bit difficult.
Mm-hmm.
In Virtua Fighter 4, I was all about Go Hinagami, the judoka. He was a new character in Virtua Fighter 4 Evolution. I thought he was really cool. His fighting style was at odds with his presented personality. Like, he was presented as a big, heavily pierced rage queen. He just would be screaming all the time and losing his temper. But the way he fought was as a very kind of traditional judoka. And Virtua Fighter, compared to other fighting games, allow me to emphasize that, Caitlin. Allow me to repeat it for emphasis.
Yes.
When compared to other fighting games, is much more grounded and plausible in its representation of martial arts. So this is a very, very big proviso, right? Anyhow, and I really like the way that he had a whole lot of joint locks and counter holds and a whole bunch of stuff like that. And that was really cool. In Virtua Fighter 5, they've decided to make his fighting style much more evocative of his personality. So whereas before, he would be screaming and raging like some sort of pent-up anger beast and engaging in very intricate joint locks, now what he's doing is he's screaming and raging and grabbing the scruff of your neck and slamming your face against the mat repeatedly, right? So he's still a grappler, and his fighting style as a player still is roughly the same, but visually it's now very, very different. And I kind of liked both that juxtaposition as well as just the beauty. Look, I've talked about this before on the show. A well-executed suplex is a thing of beauty. I just think it's aesthetically gorgeous. I really do. I really think it's aesthetically beautiful.
Yeah.
And he doesn't really do that anymore. He's all about the sort of punching people while they're down and the kicking your knee and stuff like that. Which, again, for a fighting game is fine. I'm not judging him morally. He was already a villain. It's just it's not to my taste anymore. So I was resorting to my second choice character, whose name is Leon Rafale, and the problem is, in the great history of obnoxious voice acting, Leon deserves pride of place. He's not necessarily the worst of all time, because we've definitely had some stinkers even on this show, but he's nasally and whiny and obnoxious, and part of me wonders if he's actually part French-Canadian. He's presented as being from France, but one of his victory quotes, I don't know that I'll be able to capture the true obnoxiousness of his voice. But he does a couple of fighting flourishes in his chosen fighting style. And he says, "Forgot to train, eh?" And it's like, are you secretly from Canada? Are you trolling me? Is this? Please say he's not from Canada. I don't think I could survive. I don't think my national pride could take both our not winning the World Series and Leon Rafale being from Canada. So he's a twerp. He's an obnoxious, arrogant twerp. And it's hard to get behind that. I mean, it's not as easy to be enthusiastic about that as a main character. I do like the way he fights, though.
Yeah.
So there's that. Anyway, I've talked about Virtua Fighter a lot, even on this show, about how great the core combat system is, about how it's simultaneously approachable and extraordinarily deep, how every character is a grappler, how every character possesses hidden depths, even the very, very simple ones. It's a marvelous fighting system. And I think that Virtua Fighter 5 R.E.V.O. World Stage, which is a ridiculous mouthful, is probably the best way to experience the series for a long time. Like, Virtua Fighter 5 was the more polished version, but it didn't have all the content of some of the Virtua Fighter 4. So I was still playing Virtua Fighter 4 Evolution primarily on a whole lot of emulation devices, and also just to remember Go Hinagami as it used to be. But now Virtua Fighter 5 R.E.V.O. World Stage is just a peerless experience. It is fabulous. People object to the fact that the update brought easy anti-cheat, which is a particularly obnoxious anti-cheat suite. I'm not going to defend that. It's not great, but it is what it is. And all told, I'm not an online player, but anti-cheat software is kind of a necessity if you want to run a vigorous online ladder system. I don't know.
Yeah.
I just really like where Virtua Fighter is. I like the fact that it's back. For a long time, we had no Virtua Fighter development, and now we're getting these free DLCs, and there's going to be Virtua Fighter 6 that looks very promising, and I'm just a very happy fighting game fan.
Nice. Yeah, I wish I could even remember who my Virtua Fighter main was back in the day. I was never very good at Virtua Fighter because I'm a button masher by heart, and I had a hard time button mashing in Virtua Fighter.
Sure.
Or at least that's how that's usually how I start. And then once I had fun for a little while, I start to learn the combos and stuff, but I did not get to the learning combos part.
Did you play Sarah Bryant? I could see you playing Sarah Bryant.
Yeah, I probably played her at least a little bit.
On a scale of how friendly Virtua Fighter characters are to button mashing, she is not the most friendly, but she is more friendly than many.
Yeah. I don't like to play dude characters in fighting games. So
sure.
my choices are often a lot more limited.
Most of the time, granted, I haven't spent too much time looking at all the DLC costumes, and that is often where a lot of terrible and regrettable choices are made.
Yes.
But by and large, again, when compared to other fighting games, this is a huge proviso, as always, Virtua Fighter has been much, much better at its representation of women. Mm-hmm. So there's that too.
Nice. I'm really glad that they released the World Stage DLC. That sounds like it's a huge win for Virtua Fighter 5.
Big fan. What have you been up to lately, Caitlin?
All right. So lately, or really one day this week, I played Sworn. So I played it way back in early access, just a couple times to see what it was like. Also, I was like dying for some Hades type action because I didn't want to spoil myself for Hades 2 and figured like, well, I don't really care about being spoiled for Sworn. And so I decided to play this week because I'm mostly done with Hades. I still really want to see like the final ending kind of thing, but whatever. I'm not going to go into why I'm a little upset with Hades 2 at this very moment. But the Sworn 1.0 update came out right around the same time as Hades 2 did. I don't know why that happened. It seems like a real shame.
I think it's because, in a very real way, people think that Hades was released over a year ago.
Sure. That's understandable. So, going into this, the important thing to remember is that Sworn is not Hades 2. And I'm telling that myself just as much as I'm telling you and our listeners, because I'm about to make a bunch of comparisons, which is natural, but yeah, you gotta remember they're not the same. When you start a run, you can choose a character. You start with only the Vigilante, but over time you get to unlock 3 others, so that's cool.
Yeah, and Vigilante never seemed to make any sense as a title. It was a strange choice.
Very, very odd. They all have different weapons and spells, and all of those weapons and spells will unlock as you play them. Well, they become available to buy, and you can buy them with your in-game currency. And then during a run, you receive boons, what are blessings in this game, from various gods of the Fae. I think they're almost all like Fae gods. There might be a couple that aren't, but anyway, it doesn't matter.
They're figures in broader Fae mythology. Calling them gods, I think, is a bit much.
Sure. And they give you a passive, or they'll give you something for your dash, or one of your attacks, just like Hades. Either your light attack, heavy attack, or your spell. There's also a Sword in the Stone, which gives you an upgrade related to the weapon or spell that you chose at the beginning of the run. And there's Palms of Power, aka the Anvil, that will, give you extra levels. So the gameplay so far has been pretty fun, but where Hades, generally, both Hades and Hades 2, is just steeped in personality and fun banter and writing, Sworn is very bland comparatively. The voice acting is not as interesting. The things that these people have to say, I don't care what Oberon has to say to me, okay? It's not interesting. I know who you are, but I just don't care. But all that said, you get to play multiplayer, and it's very fun to play a Hades-ish game with a friend or 2 or 3. So that is the main place where I think Sworn shines. I don't have a good sense yet for the difficulty solo versus playing with friends, but I do find it quite fun to play with friends, and that's probably the main reason that I will continue to play Sworn. It does not have the personality, and no one expected it to, but does not have the personality of Hades, doesn't have the writing of Hades, doesn't have the characters of Hades, but it's multiplayer, and that's cool.
I played Sworn for a little bit before Hades 2 hit 1.0 because Sworn, after it hit 1.0, was on Game Pass. And I figured, okay, this is going to be some action roguelike methadone to tide me over. And I was playing it and I was thinking, oh, okay, well, mechanically this is solid. Yeah. And the fact that it's completely absent personality will just make it easier to drop once Hades comes out. In a way, I'm glad I was so ignorant because Sworn, it only gets to look solid when compared to Hades 1. Compared to Hades 2, Sworn is deficient in terms of its combat engine. But that, again, that as you say, the comparison is inevitable and unfair, right? Because Hades 2 is just so much better. And Supergiant is just so much better at these kinds of things. I had some fun playing single player with Sworn, all the while thinking this is probably, one of the key selling points is probably that it allows for multiplayer. Yeah. But I knew that I'd soon be playing Hades, and so I didn't bother to try to get anyone else to play with me. And I thought, this is solid. But I only thought it was solid because I hadn't tried Hades 2 yet.
Yeah.
It's workmanlike, it's functional.
Yeah. I had a good time. It's not gonna be a standout in my mind, but I do love me a good multiplayer game. It's just a shame that it came out when it did, I think. Yeah. But that's okay.
Sworn.
Okay. And with that, we can move on to our gaming opinions on old school funware segment, what we call GOOF, with Vandal Hearts. Mark, why don't you tell us a little bit about Vandal Hearts?
Vandal Hearts was released by Konami in 1996 for the PlayStation, and then it was ported over to English-speaking audiences in 97. There was also a Saturn version, roughly around this time, and it's got a tiny, teensy little bit of extra content. It was only released in Japan, but there is a fan translation. For what it's worth, I played the Saturn version this week, and I did not encounter any of the new stuff, so it is what it is. Vandal Hearts is a tactical RPG. It is one of those transitional titles. So this was released after several Fire Emblem games, but Fire Emblem has its own take on sort of tactical RPG things. This was released more in the Shining Force / Tactics Ogre vein. And by this point, we'd already had 2 Shining Forces, and we'd had Tactics Ogre, Let Us Cling Together. I love those subtitles for Tactics Ogre. They're all taken from, Queen songs. No, I'm serious. That's where it comes from.
That's wonderful.
March of the Black Queen, Let Us Cling Together. This is all from Queen. It's like they're doing Highlander stuff. It's great.
Yeah.
And so Vandal Hearts is kind of a transitional title of, we haven't done Final Fantasy Tactics yet, because Final Fantasy Tactics basically solidified a lot of the conventions and established the sort of high watermark of the genre for a very, very long time. I remember renting Vandal Hearts, and I remember very distinctly, it was like 2 a.m. or something, and I was playing, it completely devoured me. It completely took over my life. And I remember thinking very distinctly, this was, I think, a Sunday at 2 a.m., maybe Monday morning at 2 a.m.
Yeah.
Time is weird. And I remember very distinctly thinking, there is no way I am going to school the next day. It's just not happening. And I was vaguely thinking, how am I going to get out of school? How's this going to look? How's this going to work? Because I can't conceive of doing anything other than finishing this game. I'm certainly not going to go to school to do that. And then I finished it an hour later. So there I was at like 3 a.m. being like, oh, I guess I am going to school the next day. All right. Then I returned to Vandal Hearts and moved on with my life. So suffice to say, I had very, very fond memories of Vandal Hearts.
Okay.
And then it was the one that primed me for Final Fantasy Tactics. It was when Final Fantasy Tactics came out, it's like, oh, this is just like Vandal Hearts. Yeah. Or very similar too. I hadn't played Tactics Ogre at that time. I hadn't done a Shining Force. I had not done a Fire Emblem. And so this was entirely the universe of tactical RPGs for me. And so it's what kind of set me on this road. Because I've been, for those of you who've read the newsletter, I've been in very much a tactical RPG kind of mood of like playing a whole bunch of different Fire Emblem games and the Lost Eidolons games and Veil of the Witch, to say nothing of going back to Vandal Hearts. So there's a plot, to be sure, but here's the thing. There's a certain stereotypical set of plots that one encounters in RPGs, and the one that one encounters in tactical RPGs is very much there's some kind of empire or political organization, and you're working for them, but then you get betrayed, and it turns out that they were evil all this time, and now you assemble a ragtag group of something or other, and there are all these other nobles and empires and crap, and you don't really care about any of that, or like, I don't care about any of that. At a certain point, the number of proper islands just washes over you like some sort of tide. Mostly what you're doing is you've got an isometric perspective, and you're moving your little squares, and you try to remember whether pressing up sends you diagonally to the left or diagonally to the right, but it's okay, because it's all okay. You can rotate the camera and do the whole thing. You're marching around, you're doing your little actions. Vandal Hearts!
Woo! Yeah.
What did you think of Vandal Hearts, Caitlin?
So, you brought up kind of the other tactical RPGs that had come out, and I'm trying to remember, actually, what my tactical RPG, history was. Because I know that I played Ogre Battle, March of the Black Queen. Right? Is that it?
March of the Black Queen is the non-tactics Ogre Battle. It was the first one. The second one was Tactics Ogre, Let Us Cling Together.
Ogre. Cool. So, I'm trying to remember. Honestly, Final Fantasy Tactics might have been one of my first tactical RPGs.
Sure.
I knew of Vandal Hearts. I never played it. I constantly, until this year, pretty much, when I actually played Vagrant Story, I could never keep the name straight. It was always like, is it Vagrant Hearts or Vandal Story? I don't know.
Legit.
Yeah, this is my moment to be confused about naming.
Cannot blame you at all.
But, so this was my very first experience with Vandal Hearts.
Not entirely unlike Absolem, the title of Vagrant Story you only discover at the very end of the game. That the title doesn't make any sense until then. And Vandal Hearts is named after some weird sword MacGuffin that the main character gets. It's a whole thing. The naming conventions need some work, is what I'm saying.
So yeah, the first scene loads up in Vandal Hearts, and I'm seeing, the classic PlayStation 3D art. I'm like, okay, please be sprites, please be sprites, please be sprites. And the art was sprites. So I was very happy by that. 2D sprites. They're not as pretty as I wanted them to be. I think that's partly just a personal preference. The art style of Vandal Hearts wasn't as much my jam. Oh, it shows its age. Yeah.
No doubt about it. I will say that the interaction between the sprites and the 3D assets wasn't quite as clumsy as I remember. It's not seamless by any stretch of the imagination. We were talking recently about Threads of Time and how gorgeous it is and how seamless the beautiful 2D art works with the 3D assets. I'm not asserting that Vandal Hearts looks anything like that.
Oh yeah.
But it's not quite as clumsy as I remembered.
Yeah, I didn't think the game looked beautiful, but I thought Vandal Hearts looked fine. The worst thing about it to me was, so you have your 3D model of your battlefield kind of floating in space, and then you have a weird flat background just kind of animating / chilling. What?
so weird.
Why did you do that? Such an odd choice. But anyway, so the combat feels very, very standard for a tactical RPG. You get to decide to move. You have to move before you attack, at least on every character I've encountered. I don't know of any of buck that trend. But you move, you attack, and then your positioning matters a lot. This part might have been in the manual, which of course I didn't read, but there definitely seems to be an advantage if you're attacking from high ground, and there seems to be an advantage if you're attacking from either the sides or the back, which also kind of makes sense for a lot of
pretty intuitive, yeah.
Yeah, tactical RPGs. Yeah, it's I had a good time. The writing and the story, the story's whatever. The writing is a bit funny. I took down a couple quotes that I enjoyed, thought were bad. Please
share them with us.
This guy walks into a room and he's like, "I like you. You're almost as evil as I." It's like, who says that? No one says that.
Nice.
And then another one is this archer joins you in the middle of a fight, and she's, says "Oh, it looks like you could use some help. I'm here to help, whatever." And then this bat comes up to her and attacks her. And she attacks back and she says, "Suck on this, brigand," to a bat.
Yes. Yeah.
And then Ash is like, "What a fighter."
Look, we don't know what profession the bat had. Maybe she saw that it had a brigand badge or something. Who are we to say?
Yeah, maybe.
I believe in bat rights. A bat can be a brigand if it wants to be a brigand.
You're right. I'm sorry. Bats are people too.
I didn't say that. Yeah, I agree. Keep in mind, though, that last night I was playing Split Fiction. So my standards for writing have to be recalibrated every time I expose myself to that game.
Understandable.
I did, however, think that they do a reasonably good job. See, here's one of the things that I cannot... I'm half intrigued at the prospect of replaying Final Fantasy Tactics in the newest version. I'm half dreading it, because there are two things that I remember very distinctly, formally, from Final Fantasy Tactics. One of them is the grinding, because you have these endless customization options, but they all cost experience points, and so the temptation to kit your soldiers out exactly the way you want them to is strong.
Yeah.
And to the most part, unless everybody's got the reaction skill Hamedo, you've made a compromise between your gameplay aspirations and your desire to have a real life. In which case, I applaud you. I don't think I've ever gotten myself in a position where I had more than one character with Hamedo attached. It was usually the main character.
Yeah.
The other thing that I remember is that you spend most of your time with generic faceless mooks. And I do kind of appreciate the fact that in Vandal Hearts, everyone's got a name, everyone's got a backstory, everyone's got a bit of a voice. The writing is dodgy as all get out, but they're all at least unique people. As opposed to just this army of mercenaries you hired to throw potions, and then, 27 battles later, they're deploying interesting summon magic, or whatever the case may be, right? And so every time it happens, I think this was low expectations. Because, I remember Vandal Hearts completely taking over my life when I was 17 years old. But it was, in many ways, my first tactical RPG. I'm like, okay, how clumsy is this going to feel? But no, it's like, it looks better than I remember. It plays a little bit better than I remember. Because say what you want about how the systems aren't necessarily explained. In Final Fantasy Tactics, they tell you it's like, oh, well, you should try to attack from behind. You should try to attack from high ground. It doesn't matter. It's a rounding error. At least in Vandal Hearts, it matters.
Oh, yeah.
You do more damage, your hit rate goes up. It's like transparently obvious how much stronger you get when attacking from behind and from high ground, as opposed to Tactics where it's like, walk up, hit thing. Like,
yeah, I can't remember. It's been far too long since I played Final Fantasy Tactics to even be able to remember the difference, but it is definitely obvious in Vandal Hearts, to the point where it definitely forces me to think about my facing and whether I have my back to a wall or to at least something that'll prevent the enemy from getting there. My experience with Fire Emblem has helped me a lot in playing Vandal Hearts, because I don't remember if other tactical RPGs do this, because I just don't play that many. But going over to the enemies, you can see their range. It's not as convenient as Fire Emblem, where you can just do a toggle and see it all the time, but you can see it. So you're able to use that as information when you're positioning your characters, and I like that a lot.
I also like that they did some pretty clever stuff with the maps. Both visually and substantively. The maps have more going on than a lot of other, well, certainly more than your average Fire Emblem. Fire Emblem, one of the great things that I'm enjoying about playing fan edits is that they make the maps more interesting. One of the things that I liked about Veil of the Witch is, mediocre as it is, they have more interesting maps and more focused set pieces. In Vandal Hearts, even like the third mission, you're on a bridge that's collapsing and you have to worry about your flank, and it's a whole thing. You can't advance too far, but you've got this pressure on the back, and suddenly you're learning that this bat went to brigand school and has a doctorate in brigandry and a whole thing.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of cool. I also really like how I kind of admire the fact that they went to the bother of making these graphical flourishes, like these elevated aqueducts that make it more difficult to navigate the map, forcing me to rotate the camera, reminding me that it's a 90s PS1 game.
Yes.
Sure, fine, I'll give it that. At least the maps look and feel a little bit more cool than some of its direct competition.
Yes, that is definitely true. I really like how much, there's a lot of elevation. There's things going on. It's not just a green field with some bushes, which is usually what you get into with Fire Emblem.
I did also remember one thing about Vandal Hearts, which never made sense to me, and still to this day doesn't make any sense to me. And that is, despite the fact that we know that they have the technological capability in the interface to have units target things at range on a diagonal, because magic users can do that, archers only fire in a straight line, like they're rooks. It's bizarre.
Yeah, the first time I tried to shoot somebody with the archer, I'm like, what do you mean I can't shoot diagonal? Come on.
Yep. Now, again, elevation really matters. Your range as an archer really goes up if you're firing diagonal. That's great. That's really cool. But then, of course, that just exacerbates the issue. So you need to make sure that the raised elevation is orthogonally in a line from the thing you want to shoot.
Yeah.
It's so weird. I have no idea why they did it that way.
I know. I will wonder forever, I think. I also had fun. So, one level I get into, I think it was like maybe the third one. And there's boulders. I'm like, oh man. Like, can I like do a deception on this thing? Can I like push a boulder into an enemy? So I had to work pretty hard to force an enemy to get in front of the boulder, because if I just stood next to the boulder, they didn't go in front of the boulder. So I had like one dude go in front of the boulder. I got attacked. I moved him out of the way. And then I used another guy to push the boulder. And at this point, it was going to be pretty disappointing no matter what, because the clay golem I was fighting only had 2 hit points. But I just wanted to see if this would work.
Sure.
And I push it, and it rolls down, and it hits the golem, and it keeps going. And I was like, oh man, that was cool. Do you want to know how much damage it did? 1. It did 1 damage. Why did it only do 1 damage?
That's a kick to the face.
I couldn't figure out if it's because my character needs to be the one to kill it in order to get the experience, and therefore the boulder can't kill it. I don't know. But
that's weird. That's very weird.
It's like, I know it's a clay golem, but come on.
Now, as far as the golem already having been active, I think many of the times what you're expected to do is figure out a way to push the boulder before that golem takes its first turn, because enemies only activate once you cross certain thresholds.
Yeah.
Not entirely unlike Fire Emblem and some scenarios of Final Fantasy Tactics. But since we're talking about units dying, can we talk about that glorious blood spray?
Oh my gosh. It's so much. Like, the very first mission, when some random bandit walks up to you and your character, like, you know, murders them with a sword, is just like this arterial spray that's at least 4 times as tall as the unit itself. Like, just this spray of red pixels. Or polygons, I don't know. Yeah.
It's like the size of a reasonably substantial water feature in front of a Las Vegas hotel resort. It's wonderful.
Yeah. It's intense. I was really surprised.
It's the 90s, man. You gotta have that ridiculous blood spray.
What was the rating on Vandal Hearts, actually? Is it teen?
A for awesome.
Yes, of course.
Vandal Hearts was rated M for mature. For animated blood and gore and animated violence. And oh yes, they animated that blood, they animated that gore.
Yeah, that's actually a really funny rating to me, which I feel speaks to the time. Because, at least from what I've seen so far, it absolutely could get more violent later. This is not a rated M game today.
The ESRB, much like the MPAA, is a censorship organization created by a panically private industry, thereby empowering scolds with an imprecise, poorly articulated, and inconsistent methodology, and thereby leading to self-censorship.
Yeah.
But ask me what I really think about the ESRB. So the idea that they have been inconsistent in their standards does not surprise me at all, because that's kind of baked into such organizations.
Yeah, I think that all the time when I see movies from like the 70s and 80s and find out like, oh, that was rated PG? Full frontal nudity? PG.
Won't someone please think of the children? I will clutch all my pearls, each and every last one of them.
Every single one.
I was somewhat skeptical that Vandal Hearts would live up to even a tenth of my recollection. Again, it's hard to forget your first.
Of course.
And I wasn't expecting it to immediately, grab me and compel me to forsake all other responsibilities, possibly faking an illness so as to get out of school so I could finish the thing. But I was relatively pleased at how satisfying it was. And again, some of the subtle touches, like the fact that the characters are, although very superficial, at least differentiated from each other. And the maps were a little more clever than I remember them being. I was pleasantly surprised by Vandal Hearts going back to it 30 years later.
Yeah, I had fun with it. For me, one of the biggest problems was not a problem with Vandal Hearts at all. It was one song that would start playing during a battle. And from the very first few notes, all of a sudden I would get a Final Fantasy Tactics song in my head. And then I was like, wait, this is different. This is wrong. It should sound like this other thing.
This actually reminds me with one of my biggest problems with Shining Force 2 that I didn't talk about at the time, and it's one of the main reasons why every time I've tried to go back to it, I've had such a difficulty. There's that music track they have whenever an enemy attacks. And it's a substantial track, but the problem is you only ever hear the first 5 seconds over and over and over and over again every time an enemy initiates attack, because the track stops once they go back to the main map. So when the enemy turn comes, and they're taking, the 10 enemies are taking their turn, and 5 of them are doing attacks, you hear that same clip in rapid succession. It's obnoxious.
Oh, no. Yeah, that's
Why do they do it that way, Caitlin? Why?
I don't know. It's a great question.
At least Vandal Hearts, when the enemies are taking their moves, they all, the camera starts rotating for no reason, just to give you a little bit of motion, and that jaunty little tune plays, and they start jumping up and down. It's great.
That was a bit much for me at one point. I was like, I can't watch this. Can the camera please stop moving?
It was the early days of 3D. They were just so happy that they could get the polygons to work without it looking hideous, so they decided to go to town. I'm glad you did not find Vandal Hearts to be odious after 30 years of genre evolution.
Yeah, the main quality of life thing that I would have liked to have is just after your last character goes, just end my turn. Why are you making me end the turn? That doesn't make any sense to me. I can't do anything about it at this point. At least not that I know of. Maybe there is a way to undo a turn that I'd already done, but I don't think so.
No, I agree. Those little quality of life things, ending the turn automatically, or at least prompting you to end the turn automatically, easily being able to switch between your own units that haven't activated, a better visual differentiation between the units that have activated and haven't, things like that.
Yes, I did have a hard time knowing if a certain character had taken their, especially if I did a turn, had to get up to go do something, come back, click on them. Nope, okay, they did go. Just little things. Okay, so that was Vandal Hearts. I had a lot of fun going back and playing a 1996 tactical RPG. And honestly, it made me want to play Tactics again so bad. So, maybe that'll be in my near future. And we're going to take a quick break for some ads, and we'll be back. And we are back. All right, so we are going to be jumping in to our feature game called Keeper. Mark, why don't you tell us a little bit about Keeper?
Keeper was released by Double Fine Productions this year. It's on Game Pass already. It is from the famed studio founded by Tim Schafer, a refugee from LucasArts, and is known for such titles as Psychonauts and Psychonauts 2, Brutal Legend, Broken Age, Massive Chalice, and a whole bunch of other stuff. Keeper is the story of Twig, the bird, and a lighthouse, and how they're wandering around in a world devastated by a weird insectoid plague called the Wither. This is a walking simulator type of experience game where, at the beginning, you are introduced with an arachnophobia setting and you don't yet know why. This mystery, however, is rapidly dispelled when it is revealed that the manner in which the lighthouse moves around is by some creepy insectoid legs that spout out from the base of the lighthouse. Yeah. This is about as much sense as anything that happens in Keeper makes. Such is the nature of things. Have I left anything out, Caitlin? I think I've given a pretty comprehensive account for what goes on.
Yeah, you covered it. So this is going to sound so bad, but I almost quit in the first 5 minutes because...
I'm listening. You don't know how sympathetic an audience I am.
You start moving, and you are so slow. And it's like, okay, I get that you've never had weird little legs before, Lighthouse, but, let's get going. And you're walking toward the camera.
Why do you spend so much time running towards the camera? Wasn't good in Crash Bandicoot, didn't get better now. Why? Sorry, I shouldn't have interrupted. Go on, Caitlin.
Why? And you're just slowly shambling, and you keep falling over. Just constantly falling over. And I was just like, it lasted much longer than I thought it would. I thought, okay, you fall over, twice, and then you learn how to walk, and you're fine. No. I mean, okay, this section of Keeper was probably a lot shorter than it was in my brain. But it was infuriating. There was one point where I was like, okay, if this lighthouse falls over one more time, I'm done. I'm closing it. I'm not playing this.
Yeah.
But we got past it.
All right.
We got past it. And then, from then on, I had fun walking around, exploring. The bird has a lot of personality for being kind of this weird little, I guess birds are, in a way, kind of dinosaurs. But this bird feels very dinosaur to me. Maybe, all the angles on it or something. And, it's a cute little guy. the lighthouse manages to have a decent amount of personality for just being a lighthouse with legs. And the game did... Keeper got fun, but that first few minutes was painful as hell.
I think I've come to the conclusion that whatever Double Fine is selling, I'm just not buying it. I think that I'm just really not their target audience, because wonder is a strange, ephemeral, and fragile thing.
Yeah.
And I've heard a lot of people talk about how Keeper is this wondrous experience and with delightful vistas and so forth. And I found it literally soporific.
Oh, no.
I seldom... Usually, if I find a game soporific, it's because it's something like Vampire Survivors. The level is like 30 minutes long, and 25 minutes into it, you've long ceased having any meaningful impact on what's going on. And so you just, you're washing noise. Keeper, I literally had to start playing 4 times because the first 3 times it was putting me to sleep. I wasn't sleepy at the time.
Yeah.
I don't find narcolepsy a difficulty. I don't find it hard to stay awake through even games I don't like.
Yeah.
But Keeper was putting me to sleep. Because I'm wandering around as this lighthouse, again, far too often towards the camera.
Yep.
And I'm left to believe, based on the fact that not infrequently, the lighthouse goes on a sort of like an outcropping, and the camera pans back, and I could hear the studio audience, the canned studio audience go, ooh, or something.
Yeah.
And I'm literally, every time this happened, I'm scrutinizing the screen like I'm deciphering the Da Vinci Code, trying to figure out what I'm supposed to be looking at that's so impressive. I mean it. I'm like, okay, clearly the game is trying to show me something. All right?
Yeah.
Either it's related to the gameplay or it's not. I'm not saying that it has to be related to the gameplay, but it's trying to show me something. What is it trying to show me? What here is so important? Why is this... I don't know. All right, moving on.
Yeah, I think... One of the things that feels a little strange to me about Keeper is, I think the thing that I would generally expect is feeling a little bit more connection with all of these strange creatures that you're running into. I just didn't feel like I knew them well enough. And granted, they're creatures. They don't, there's no dialogue, at least as far as I've ever gotten through Keeper.
Not a stitch.
And that's okay. I don't think that's necessarily important, but I do think I would have liked to see a little bit more of some of these creatures in order to appreciate some of the scenes that they show us a little bit more. There's these weird little birds that, really like these red berries that you knock down and they kind of eat it up, and there's a big spray, not unlike the blood spray from Vandal Hearts. Similar color, but they're berries, it's fine. And there's all these strange, you see a lot of cool stuff, but I wish I knew more about why it was cool. We see this huge, at first I thought this was more of a closer to our world, even though, yes, there is a walking lighthouse, but because the first scenes that you're walking through are all of these old abandoned homes.
Rusting car hulks.
Yeah, exactly. But then as you progress further, it definitely feels a lot more fantasy. There's this huge, I don't know if it's a dragon, but this huge lizard-like creature, which is a skeleton that you end up walking through. So it's okay, well, clearly this is not the planet Earth, at least not that we know of. And yeah, I don't know. I do think I did find it pretty. I did find it less soporific than you did. But I also didn't necessarily feel a huge urge to continue on. I know that, this cute little bird, Twig, is hanging out on my head, and I love Twig, but why is Twig hanging out with me? Where am I going? Why am I going there?
Yeah.
Other than I grew legs and decided to go on an adventure. I don't know. So some of those things would have been nice to at least get a sense of. And I don't know if you get that sense later in the story or if you're just walking around just cuz. And that's okay, but not necessarily something that'll keep me going through Keeper.
I'm as interested in exploring video games as art as the next guy, possibly even more. And I've really enjoyed a lot of those things. And so I was kind of looking forward to Keeper based on what I'd heard about it.
Yeah.
And I had one of those experiences that you sometimes have in fiction. You want to know when things have actually started. Like,
Yeah.
I often feel this way about movies in particular. It's like, okay, when does the movie really start? This is not that I'm antsy or impatient for it to get started. Sometimes it takes like an hour for the movie to really start. That's fine.
Yeah.
Sometimes if it's an indie movie from the 70s, the movie doesn't ever really start and doesn't really ever end either. It just happens. Okay, cool. That's fine. But nonetheless, from a structural perspective, especially if I'm not getting or if I'm not really compelled by what's going on, I get more curious about these structural elements and think, okay, when are we getting going? And I was having that very strong sensation with respect to Keeper. And I realized somewhat belatedly after one of my playthroughs where I wasn't being put to sleep, and I went back to look at the chapter list. It's like, oh, I've cleared like a dozen chapters. Though that was a chapter? What? Oh, I guess I'm in the meat of the game. Huh. And it took me by surprise. And it really served to underline, oh, this is what you're doing. This is what it is. I've seen what the game is trying to do. Or at least I've been at the early stages, and I haven't just been at the setting things up stage. This is the game. This is the meat of the game. And it really just served to underscore that Double Fine and I are not on the same wavelength. Their products have a devoted fan base that will effuse endlessly about their charm and their magical ability to transport them to a different universe. And I find, by and large, my experience with Double Fine products to be kind of cold and unengaging. Psychonauts, sometimes I found charming. I found some of the bits of the characters, particularly Dugan. Mm-hmm. Dugan for life. I'm all about that Dugan lifestyle. But broadly speaking, this just didn't do it for me.
Yeah, it's possible that I may return to Keeper, but if I do return to Keeper, it won't be until after it'll be when I'm, like, legitimately bored and don't know what to play. Even though Keeper is only, I think, 4 hours long. I genuinely thought that I would have finished it by now, and I definitely haven't. I'm maybe halfway. I'm not sure. I forgot there's a chapter list. I could check that at some point, but it just didn't take me.
We appear, Caitlin, I know this isn't a media criticism show, but we appear to be in the minority.
Yeah, I mean, I can see maybe what people see in it to some degree, but yeah, I don't know. It doesn't have the spark that I need, personally.
It does really seem to be that a lot of what Double Fine produces is, and I don't even really mean this as an insult, critic bait. Critical community does really seem to like a lot of what Double Fine puts out. I've just never been there.
I'm trying to think, I played Costume Quest 1 and 2, and I liked those a lot. They were just cute.
Nobody talks about Costume Quest.
No,
it's weird.
No one does.
When Double Fine comes up, you're like, yeah, Costume Quest. I'm like, yeah, I keep forgetting they did that. Because everyone who talks about Double Fine, they're talking about, Master Chalice, Broken Age, Psychonauts, Brutal Legends. Those are the games that come up. Maybe some of the old LucasArts work that a lot of that crew did.
Yeah, for me, it's Costume Quest, which is maybe why I don't vibe as much with some of their
That's
games.
Great. I support your let us not be in favor of Costume Quest erasure.
Yeah. It's like just a cute trick-or-treating game. Come on, people.
What about Costume Quest? Come on.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I'm out of stuff to say about Keeper. I thought it is genuinely pretty. The bird is weird looking but cute. And I just don't know what I'm doing in it.
Sounds about right. Keeper.
Okay, and with that, we can begin our shameless hyping of upcoming titles in our shout segment. Mark, what are you shouting out today?
A game means serious business when its title is in all caps.
Oh, yeah.
And I would like, very much in keeping with me being on a tactical RPG kick, to talk about MENACE. I assume that's how it's to be rendered because it's in all caps. This is by Overhype Studios, lovely name.
Nice.
And it is kind of the sci-fi follow-up to their mercenary company game, Battle Brothers. I've got a number of friends who played Battle Brothers. I've never played it myself. I may give it a try someday. I very much prefer science fiction to fantasy, all things being equal. And MENACE is coming along. There's a demo available. I haven't played the demo. I'm going to wait for it to be closer to the release date. MENACE is going to be coming out sometime in 2026, but it looks very promising. It's got mechs, and it's got guns, and all the good things you need for a sci-fi tactical kind of thing. And as I say, all caps must be a sign of quality.
Yeah.
MENACE.
Absolutely agreed. I'm really looking forward to Pokemon Pokopia, I think is how you say it. It is a cozy farming game because I'm a stereotype of myself, but you play a Ditto. You're a Ditto. So you have those funny little dot Ditto eyes, and you can, like, transform into other Pokemon in order to do certain farming things, and it just looks so cute. And I'm there for it. I believe it's also supposed to be 2026.
It is about time we had a Ditto protagonist, don't you think?
Yeah, absolutely. Ditto is one of the best Pokemon, if I do say so myself.
That far, but okay.
It's so cute. It's just a weird little purple blob.
Ditto's no Psyduck, that's for damn sure. I think we can all agree on that.
Okay, that's true. But then a Ditto Psyduck, so cute.
I think a Ditto Psyduck would be too confused to genuinely represent the angst and pain that is at the core of a Psyduck's existence.
Oh, poor Psyduck. I can't believe there's a whole creature in the Pokemon universe that just has horrible headaches all the time. That seems really cruel of, like, Pokemon universe god.
Well, it's actually funny you bring that up, because we're now dwelling on things appropriate for the works of Werner Herzog. It's like how you could do an impression of Werner Herzog, but you're never going to really have that overall perspective. You can make fun of the accent, you can even make fun of the cadence and the things that he says. But, you know, at the end of the day, they're just copies. I'm sorry, what were we talking about again?
With that, I think that wraps it up for this episode of All My Best Friends Are Digital. Thank you all so much for joining us. If you'd like to support us, you can find us on Patreon at patreon.com/amfad. And we will see you next week.
Take care, everybody. Bye.
Thank you so much for listening. If you'd like to get in touch, you can reach us at allmybestfriendsaredigital@gmail.com. Hope to see you again soon.